Okay, so about a month ago, I was on this road trip going through the Appalachian Mountains and out to the beaches in the Carolinas, and I ended up stopping at this dispensary in Asheville, North Carolina called Smokey Bear Hemp Company, and I really liked this particular THCa dispensary because the sort of cannabinoid market is a really interesting topic to me for a lot of reasons, but essentially in 2018, the federal government passed something called the hemp bill, which essentially allowed for all cannabis products that contained less than 0.3% delta 9 THC to be bought and possessed and sold and all of those things. And the original sort of intention behind a lot of it was to open up the market for both hemp and some of these sort of non-psychoactive cannabis constituents and alkaloids, things like CBD, and that is where initially a lot of the market sort of began, and where a lot of the interest and money was, and what companies were making. But quickly, people caught on to the fact that this farm bill essentially presented an opportunity, a loophole, where you could manufacture and create a bunch of these psychoactive cannabis alkaloids that are naturally found within cannabis, and produce extracts of them, and it would be legal almost nationwide. And so there's been this really quick upcropping of cannabis almost nationwide, and also a really quick disappearing of the cannabis nationwide as well too, as individual states start to crack down on the THCA slash alternative cannabinoid market. You've probably seen some of these cannabinoids before in your local gas station if you've seen Delta 8 gummies or HCX-8 vape or whatever it is. And that's the thing about it, is that there is a lot of sketchy, shitty players within the cannabinoid space. And just sort of by luck, I found Smokey Bear Hemp Company in Asheville. And like I said, I really like what they have going on because they're more of a smaller, artisanal sort of THCA flower dispensary. And whenever I went in there, I really enjoyed both the quality of the products and the price point that they're at, and the people that I interacted with within the store. And finding good players within this cannabinoid space is getting more and more difficult with this sort of huge cannabinoid conglomerates that have taken over it. So yeah, within this conversation, I dive into Smokey Bear Hemp Company, the sort of formation of it, who they are, what they do, but also how they differentiate themselves within the market and where they see the market going, and the problems that they've faced at the company and the opportunities that they've, had within this cannabinoid market. So it was a blast. It was a really fun conversation. I highly recommend you guys check out these dudes, Cannabis. They're in the process of setting up their website right now. It might be out by the time this podcast comes out. If not, I'll update it later, or you can just contact them directly to get some shit, to get some cannabis shipped to you. But yeah, I really enjoyed the cannabis. It was good stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Peace out and much love. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Launchpad Podcast. It is your host, Gabriel Hardy, and today I am joined by the Smokey Bear Hemp Company. I have William and Austin with me today. How's it going, guys? You doing all right?
Yeah, just chilling. How you doing?
Awesome. Very good, very good. Thank you for joining me. Yeah. So if you guys could you give everybody a kind of like, and maybe we'll start, we'll go left to right from my point of view here. So William, start first. If you could give me a brief sort of rundown on what the sort of THCA / cannabinoid market is, and then your guys' positioning in it. How did you guys get started as a company?
Okay, so in 2018, they passed the Farm Bill that was federally. And when they did that, they allowed all the cannabinoids outside of THC, just regular old THC, to basically run free and be allowed to be sold anywhere until the states played catch up and started to regulate things all around. I live in North Carolina. He lives in South Carolina. I think South Carolina just caught up on regulation, or they're just starting to. North Carolina is still like completely lawless in that regard. Not that we would ever want to do it or anything like that, but as far as the rules go right now, a 4-year-old could walk into a shop and purchase anything. That's not cool. So in that regard, we do need regulation, and we're just hoping that as the regulation comes about, that they'll do it in a responsible way, but also like a way that everybody can be cool with, that everybody can be like, all right, yeah, this makes sense, instead of just cracking down like they have in so many other states. And it is looking like North Carolina is going to go that way. The governor's talking about regulation and recrealization, and he's talking about not having a limit on the number of businesses that can acquire a marijuana license in the state. We haven't covered like how much personal growth you can have, but of course, once states allow people to grow at home, that alters the business entirely, because then people feel like, well, I'm growing the best stuff, and then they stop going out, and it really devalues the plant overall. But you're never going to find what we do. What we do is we grow in Tennessee, and we grow super exotic strains that you're not going to find at Joe's garage or in Mary's basement. You're not going to find the stuff that we're growing at anybody's home grow, unless they really know what they're doing. And that's what's going to separate the businesses who are just out here selling crap and the businesses who are selling a premium thing that you have to come out and get. So about 8 or 9 years ago, Jeff and his buddy in Tennessee, they opened up a farm, and it's been there for about 9 years in Sevierville. And then he started opening Smokey Bear. We opened Smokey Bear and Pigeon Forge in Tennessee, and that went excellent. So he decided, well, we're going to open up in Greer, South Carolina. That went even better. So now here we are. We're talking to you from Asheville, North Carolina, in our third store, and we're trying to continue expanding and providing great quality product for everybody.
I chose you guys. I really honed in on you guys because there was something that, I talked to you, William, for a little bit, but I've come across a few of you guys so far within my kind of like, I've been a cannabis consumer for the past decade, and I've been a consumer of the THCa/cannabinoid market ever since it became a thing in 2018. It first started off with like just very overpriced CBD extracts and shit like that, and so I've seen like the evolvement, and I as a consumer who is heavily involved, I really appreciate when people do it right. I really liked what you guys had going on in terms of there was kind of like this artisanal feel, and also it had a somewhat artisanal feel while also the end consumer got a good product at a good price, and that's honestly somewhat hard to fucking find sometimes within this THCA cannabinoid market, man. And it's kind of comes back to what I think you were speaking about just a minute ago there, when you were speaking on the sort of regulations that might be potentially put in place, and how states have been playing this weird game of having their own regulations along the way, within the actual like legal cannabis market across the United States, states that have recreational and medical programs and have legalized it, like actual, Delta 9. It's really interesting because you see this insane spectrum where some states, it's like, yeah, it's legal there, but it's like heavily restrictive. It's kind of hard to access. It could be super fucking expensive and taxed out the ass. It's like most people who are actually cannabis consumers in these like really shitty legal states just end up going to the black market anyways, and or this new THCA market, and right. So like the sort of the container that it's given is really, really important. First of all, to sort of like the product that ends up on the table, and then like the price point that it's at for the end consumer, and so like I've really like wondered and pondered this a lot within sort of my consumption of these cannabinoids over the past few years. Like, what is it exactly that leads to some states being much more fertile sort of grounds for these businesses than others? Like I know you guys have a few different locations, but like, is there something strategic in the states that you guys have chose? Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is there something strategic? What in the states we chose?
in the states you chose based on like legislature regulations, kind of
Oh, definitely.
barrier to
Yeah,
entry?
yeah. So,
Yeah.
like the store that we opened in Tennessee originally before we moved to Greer and Asheville, that store is just a vape store now. Like we're not allowed to distribute there anymore. So that sucks for our business. You know, that sucks for our what we're bringing in, being able to even sustain a physical location there. We're in, I think we're in Pigeon Forge, and if you know anything about Tennessee, then you know as far as expensive places to be. You've got Nashville, you've got Pigeon Forge, you've got what Memphis, and that's
Knoxville.
Knoxville.
Yeah.
Knoxville, yep,
Mhm.
that's it. As far as like places where you're gonna find like high rents, a lot of businesses flourishing, a lot of people spending a lot of money, a big economy, a booming economy. Those four spots in Tennessee are going to be it. And Pigeon Forge is more than just a booming economy for Tennessee because Pigeon Forge is like their tourism spot. Like that's not just booming for Tennessee. It's booming for Tennessee because of all the outsiders constantly coming in. So our rent there is outrageous. And they just changed the law there to where we're no longer allowed to distribute there. We can grow there, you can have it on you there, but you can't distribute it there. So it's like the lawmakers don't even know. It's really just lobbying by, if I can be completely honest, mostly people on ABC boards in every state lobbying to get this plant under their control. They want the ABC boards to control it rather than making like a new hemp board or anything like that. Um, but as far as North Carolina and Asheville goes, we definitely picked Asheville specifically because it is a super plant friendly place, extremely plant friendly here. And as far as Greer, I believe that place was chosen not out of strategy, but because his Jeff, the owner, his mother, was from there, and so she just wanted him to move back closer. And he had a successful business going in Tennessee, and Jeff loves his family, so he moved down there, and they just opened their second store down there, and it ended up doing tremendously well to the point where next he just chose Asheville. And another point about Asheville that he makes often is he feels as though if you can make it in Asheville with a business like this, because it is, if you've ever been here, you know it is overly saturated. There are so many shops. People come in here all the time asking or talking to me or bringing up the fact that they have no idea where to go. Um, so he feels like if you can make it in Asheville, you can pretty much make it anywhere on the East Coast with a
Yeah.
business model like this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a very competitive market there, and I just like I could feel it passing through,
I bet.
but so this point that you bring up about it looks like, and I know you had mentioned that to me whenever I saw you in person at your store there, that you guys were in this transition from your like Tennessee air shop to like this Carolina shop. A lot of it had to do with the legislature coming and shit like that. And I really, and we've seen this not just happen with Tennessee, we've seen this happen with several states now at this point, in this like weird, rapidly evolving spectrum of the THC legality and regulations, right? But like when I really like sit here and ask myself, like Tennessee, for example, like the people lobbying against that and who passed that through, like we're not going to do this shit anymore. But you cannot honestly answer, like tell me that came from good intentions. Like there was
Right.
an incentive structure behind that, a very clear incentive structure behind that, and that some white dude in a fucking meeting somewhere is like trying to drive more profit for his company. It's usually, and like that's the thing about the THCA market, this new cannabinoid market that's cropped up since 2018, man, is that they've been kind of scrambling ever since the mad scientists in the labs figured out we could really take advantage of this whole loophole. There's been this scrambling on both sides of the people who have been able to take advantage of the loophole, building up their businesses and building up their assets and building up their wealth and combating it at the lobbying level. But then there's also the fucking billionaires, and the huge cannabis conglomerates who have existed now for a good decade plus, who really don't like it because when you have something like a sort of medical program or a recreational program within a state, it's a lot more like centralized and usually controlled. And there's like big players who can pull a lot of the strings. But when you have a more sort of somewhat decentralized kind of market, like the cannabinoid market, where there's a little bit a much easier barrier to entry for people, it really makes it just that, it makes it a lot more decentralized. And
Yeah, they
so,
don't want a free
yeah,
market. They
Right,
don't want a flea
right.
market.
And what really bothers me about that too, man, it bothers me for a lot of reasons. I think like earnest, hardworking people like you two gentlemen should be able to like passionately do what you love and be able to compete within the market, and not have to be some fucking billionaire businessman. You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
think in
Yeah.
the people who have been to prison for this before, they should be able to compete and make their money within the
Definitely.
market as well too. But also the end consumer, dude. Like when you actually open up the market, the person who's buying the fucking weed is getting good weed at a good price. But when it's constricted like that in this way, what you end up seeing a lot is these
It turns
very
into
sort of like,
DMV.
yeah, dude, and you get the shitty cannabinoid products, and I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of those.
Yeah. Yeah, they come
Yeah.
in here all the time actually, and try to offer us their products to sell in here, and we 9 times out of 10 don't carry it. We love carrying people's products if they're doing it right, and it's but it is few and far between currently. Like most people bringing in their products that want to wholesale us something and trying to get us to put it in their store. It's all Delta 8, it's all Delta 10, it's all HHC, it's all THCP, it's all THCO, it's all the synthetic blend cannabinoid crap that nobody should be putting in their body.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And
If
so
you got
like
real
that was one of
THC,
the
we'll take it all day.
well, that was kind of one of the questions I really wanted to ask you guys about is that, I noticed it looks like a lot of your guys' business is, I know there's various cannabinoids that are sold, but like it looks like a lot of it does revolve around THCA. Maybe this is a good chance for Austin, you to jump in, brother, if you could. Maybe could you give us a kind of like quick rundown on the current status of the different cannabinoids that are available within the market? You don't have to go into like super detail with like every one, just kind of like a quick rundown on that. And then also like, could you articulate why you guys have really honed in on and chose THCA and why it looks like a lot of other people do as well too?
Well, most people are choosing THCA because it's the precursor to THC. It's the same thing until you heat it to 212 degrees. It's the exact same thing. And with this loophole, you, me, my grandma, right now, almost anyone with an ID can get a pound of it shipped straight to their front door in less than 3 days. And for less than $1,000, it's crazy. And it's basically the same product that they're selling in these legal dispensaries for $80 on an eighth. So they're like, why would I
Mm-hmm.
pay for that? Go have to get a medical license or anything like that when I can just order it straight to my door through online.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I've noticed is really interesting about THCA, the extra door that THCA kind of opened up, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this as well too. But at the beginning of the kind of farm bill stuff, 2018, like I said, at first it was like primarily just these like really expensive like CBD extracts and things like that, and then it kind of moved in. Then like Delta 8 came, right, and then like THCA came a little bit later down the road. But what was interesting about the introduction of THCA into the market and a bunch of people like realizing that loophole and owning it on that is that it opened up the market for flower for people all across the United States, for a good high quality flower all across the United States, which was really unique because before that people were excited about the fact that like, okay, say for instance, I live in Kentucky, right? So it's always been illegal here. It still is, right? But like whenever Delta 8s are becoming available and stuff, people were legitimately excited about it. And honestly, I'm sure you guys agree with me at this point. I don't like Delta 8 as much as I do Delta 9. It seems like a lot of consumers would report the same thing, but yet there was something to the fact that it was quote unquote legal and sort of accessible, right? But something that I've always been a big fan of is flower over extracts. You know what I'm saying? And at that time, at the beginning stages of just there being like Delta 8 and like HHC, there was these really cheap, like sprayed, and there still is these on the market, but like Delta 8 CBD flowers and things like that. And they're honestly, I've yet to find one that's enjoyable. I don't know last time I've even tried any of these extract sprayed products, right? But like once people realized the THCA loophole, they realized, oh, we can just sell flour now, like actual flour that has a whole, like several decades worth of like research and innovation and like industry and money being pumped behind it. So like we didn't have to develop some weird sort of like HHC strain of flour that would have taken us 20 years to get to like healthy levels, but yeah, it was like we could just start selling flour, and that seemed like a really unique sort of opportunity that it opened up. How does that like exist within your guys' sort of current business model? What would you say are like some of your guys' top selling products, and is THCA flour one of them?
Yeah, it's our number one seller compared to everything. I was gonna say we're still battling that problem, like you said, the sprayed hemp. So most places, like I don't want to badmouth anyone, but most places, some vape shops you go into, I'd say 8 out of 10 of them have hemp or CBD flower sprayed with Delta 9, Delta 8, Delta 10, HHC, whatever they want to spray on it. We don't know, and it's just in a sealed bag, and that's what you get. And that's what people come in here expecting. We have, and they don't believe us. They don't. We show them. We let you see it. No one believes us. We're still battling that problem. Everyone thinks it's fake. They think it's some synthetic cannabinoid we're trying to sell them, that we just sprayed some stuff on hemp and now we're trying to turn a profit and sell them something that's not what we say it is. So we're still battling that problem a lot every day, actually.
Right. There's like these kind of like misconceptions at the consumer level.
Almost
that
everyone
like,
that comes in.
Especially like
yeah,
in the vape space as well. Like because it's THCA vapes, disposables. Once you hit a THCA disposable vape, if that's truly what it is, it becomes illegal in our state. Like after you hit it the first time, you've heated it up to a certain degree. There's at least a little bit in there that is now permanently illegal. So the only vapes that any shop can comfortably sell without, pushing their customers to break the law is going to be like some kind of synthetic blend. And you have people out here that literally come into this store where, like, no lie, we have some of the best flour in Western North Carolina. We definitely have top 3 or 5 prices in Western North Carolina, and people walk right past that flour and go for the vapes every time. And I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but it looks right in front of me in my face, it looks like addiction. They don't care about
interesting.
anything else, nothing else.
Even the cannabinoids, I try to explain to them, I'm like, this is a research. I'm like, they don't really know what's in this. I was like, that's why they're allowed to sell it to you and put a good taste on it. But they're like, oh no, it's okay, I still want it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know
Right.
what to tell them.
Well, and this is something that we've seen play out for quite some time within the cannabis industry before the THCA market or alternative cannabinoid market ever became a thing. Is like this trend of, historically, the way that people have consume cannabis. And even at times when they've made quote unquote extracts, they've been much more sort of holistic, full spectrum, homemade extracts, things like hash and stuff like that. But like, it's either been like hash or flour for most of human history. And this hash and flour had way much lower percentages of the psychoactive, sort of alkaloids, right? But and we've seen this within the regular cannabis industry, this trend of consumers falling heavily into this sort of addictive pattern with it. And it seems like a very common correlation with that is that they're consuming lots of extracts. It's like they've moved on from flour, and it's this like beaming of extracts into their bloodline, into their bloodstream. You know what I'm saying, to keep themselves functioning. And then what amplifies that further, I think, is that already existed within the cannabis market. That was just Delta 9, but then now there's all these cannabinoids that are like THCP, right? And then like and what's shitty, man, is that even if people want to, even if they're earnestly attempting to, most of these vapes and companies, you can't trust what they're saying is within their product, and you can't trust the lab results either. You know how, like, I'm sure you guys are pretty well aware, it is so incredibly common and so incredibly easy to fudge your lab results. It's almost like uncommon if you're somebody who across the board sticks with your actual lab results. It's like almost uncommon within the industry.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so they're not going to send the bottom of their barrel stuff. They're going to send the best one they can possibly find to get tested, and that's what they're going to send. And the rest of it is just going to go out. They're not testing every single piece that leaves their lab or their facility.
Yeah. And so we've laid out like kind of some of the issues, and we agree on a lot of the issues with the kind of like current market of things and stuff like that. But what would you guys say? And I've heard you allude to it a couple times, but what would you guys say is your sort of unique value proposition to people who are looking to buy cannabis or cannabinoids compared to your competitors within the space? Like, really, what sets you apart from other people and makes them want to buy from you?
What sets us apart? Yeah, I was gonna say, well, for me, I feel like we can tell you exactly where our flower comes from, and not only where it comes from, we're 2 people removed from how it got here. It's not, we ordered it online, some guy dropped it off. It's at this farm. I'm like, our owner, when to pick it up to the farm, he has part ownership of, picks it up, brings it right back here. There's no shipping, no delay, and it's also very local. Like, we drive to this. There's no shipping, no mail. All this is very local, very fresh stuff, and that's very rare. If you go around to any smoke shop around here, you're going to find a big glass jar of weed they've had for 3 months. It's brown.
It smells the same as the next big glass jar of weed that they got, and the next big glass jar of weed that they got, and the next big glass jar.
Yeah, they have no test results. They don't know what the name is. They just have it in a big jar on the shelf, and they're like, here you go.
And I'll also, just to throw this in there, I don't know why, I'm just a very honest person. So, like, we have customers come in here, and if we have something in here that I'm not feeling, I'm just going to tell you. I don't know if they're going to do that at other boutiques or other dispensaries or other stores. I've been in other stores where they've just, as a customer, now I'm speaking as a customer, I've been in other stores where they're like, I'll say, I really like this concentrate that you have, that you claim that you make in-house. Do you have anything that might be a little different, just so I could try something different? And they're like, we'll try this out. And they hand me some 2 grams sugar wax that they have in a refrigerator that's third party. They're just like, man, this is awesome. That's really all they say. You take it home, you open it up, you smoke it, and it just burns your throat. It sizzles the whole time from moisture. You look underneath and the batch number, you look up the batch number, it's from 8 months before. And you're like, man, this guy at the shop just sold me this and was like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, he knew what he was talking about. He either had no idea what he was talking about, or he's just a piece of shit. Like, and like, I don't know. If you come in here, I'm just going to be like, that's it, or that's not it. You know what I'm saying? And everybody has different preferences. That's what I really think it comes down to as well, is we really care about if someone's in here, we take into consideration what they tell us. We want to know what you're looking for. We have a strain over there that I wouldn't recommend to anybody at all until they came in here and told me I'm experiencing bodily pain, or I'm experiencing insomnia, or like high strung anxiety. We have strains that we really try to pinpoint what this strain could be used for. Is this a medicinal strain? Is this just a strain you want to smoke to get high on? Is this a strain that's going to be too much for maybe older people, or is it going to be just right? All that stuff comes into play when we're trying to sell people stuff, and we really try to match make people with the strains that they need. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, especially within the cannabis space, anything dealing with health and wellness, especially psychoactive products, but in particular the cannabis space, the customer retention is super, super important, and like that trust and authenticity is super important to retaining those customers. You know what I mean? Like, if they, because they can sniff it out when you're not, you know what I'm saying? There is some people who are not as intelligent and can be misguided and manipulated, and there's a lot of sketchy marketing tactics involved in the industry. But when someone spent enough time consuming cannabis and educating themselves on cannabis, it's very easy to sniff out when you got just some douchebag bro scientist bud tender in front of you compared to some guy who's actually, there's a huge difference. Like, there's a spectrum to it. I'm sure you've met plenty of these guys, you know what I mean? But then there's actual people who want to like listen to the person and hear
I'm gonna break that down for you. There's people who saw the gold rush and came running, and there's people who were here long before the gold rush ever started. And that's the 2 types of people you're going to find in this industry. You're going to find people who were here before this plant was making the government, it could possibly be billions now, but definitely millions in tax revenue before they saw all the dollar signs. The people who were here just trying to help their friend Ricky or Joe or John down the street with the best shit they could find. Those are the people that you need to be speaking to in this industry. The people who just came in with their lab coats on, and they just started creating all sorts of synthetic research chemicals so that they can run away from the law and continue making money. Those people have been in society for a long time. The thing is, they've been making research chemicals for other drugs. Now they're making weed research chemicals. Like, avoid all of that is what I would say, because I've avoided, research chemicals my whole life. I like psychedelics here and there, and that market has been ran through with the research chemicals. You know what I'm saying? You have to know what you're putting in your body at the end of the day. That's number one. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I agree with you. And the psychedelic market right now is so incredibly interesting. My most popular video on my YouTube channel, I'm actually talking about the gas station mushroom product phenomenon. I have over 100,000 organic views on that video. And so it shows there's a lot of interest in people being like, what the fuck is going on here? You know what I'm saying? But it's so interesting. And I've actually talked to a couple of these guys who are part of these conglomerates. One of them was trying to sponsor my podcast, which I really wasn't going to do, but I wanted to have a Zoom meeting with this guy. I wanted to talk to him. I was curious about just picking his brain about business. Business really interests me.
Well, he was the owner of one of these psychedelic mushroom brands?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. And I'll tell you afterwards. I'll tell you the name of it afterwards off camera and stuff, who it was. But, dude, I was really trying to dig and give this guy an opportunity and be like, hey man, some level of but it came down to, he would not tell me the fucking molecule that was ultimately being used.
I bet he wouldn't.
It's one of these psychedelic tryptamines. If I had to guess, because I actually tried it too. And I've tried quite a few of these research chemical tryptamines, since my teenage years and things like that. And if I had to guess, it was like a 4-HO, 4-HO-DET or 4-HO-MET. But that's just kind of a get. But that's a very experienced psychonaut, right? Just earnestly trying to dissect it. That's imagine the normal average bear consumer who's legitimately just passively heard that psychedelics can help with their depression, and then they get a fucking ephedrine 4-HO bomb. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, dude, it's despicable, right? What has led to it is kind of the same thing we're alluding to within this THCA market. It's stupid incentive structures overall. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's and it also alludes to this very persistent thing that we have expressed as a collective, as human beings, that through prohibition and all the fucking rules that you set, we are going to dictate by our own means what is medicinal to us and not. You're not going to dictate what goes into our bodies, and that persists in a myriad of different ways. And the research chemicals and shitty cannabinoids, I don't like them. I also don't think people should be consuming them, but they are a product of trying to make the real good shit illegal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so with all that being said, besides education, what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys face within this industry as a company? What are some of the biggest challenges you guys face? What do you think is some biggest roadblocks in your way of growth? Are you guys looking to grow as a business? Are you okay with where you're at within the market and kind of keeping, but I mean, what would you say is some of your biggest challenges that you face, man?
Well, I was about to say, we definitely don't want to run the whole market. We're cool with where we are and our local community farm to table kind of style. We're definitely cool with that. We don't want to start running the world, going to every state, open dispensaries on every block. That's not what we're looking for. But I'd say our biggest roadblock is definitely going to be education, just letting people know so they're informed. Because most people that come in there, so they're scared they're going to go to jail. They think we're cops. They're this is a setup. This isn't real. Or they think we're selling them research chemicals. I feel education is probably our biggest. That and what'd you say?
I think you're right, because I think we're constantly battling misinformation.
Well, that and I want to say
the legalization.
No, the influx of all the different products. There's so many people. It's saturated. The saturation of the market.
Yeah.
Because every day we have a person cleaning here with a packet.
We're hoping that with the legalization, that saturation dies a little bit. If you're doing it right, we want you to succeed. But there's, like he said earlier, there's 8 out of 10 shops out here that are not doing it right. They should cease to exist. They should not continue working in this industry. If you want to, rip people off and make some money, go run a pawn shop or a scrap yard or something like that. Don't start putting things in people's bodies. That's you're literally killing people. It's
to to play devil's advocate just a little bit here with that comment, my mind got to churning. Do you fear at all, though, that in the attempt to push out these quote unquote bad players, in the attempt to regulate within that way? Yeah, I personally, and I'm not a political person, but I very rarely trust government with implementing things correctly, if that makes sense. And so, like, it'd be great if in a perfect world that we could, through regulation, get them to just selectively take out the bad players and let the small mom and pops and artisanal and quality players flourish. That'd be fucking amazing if we could achieve that through like government regulation. But I'm very skeptical. I feel like as if though anything presented in that way, it's like most of the time, no, like there's an incentive structure with people lobbying where they're going to ultimately benefit from this. And I also feel as if though like that maybe, you know, and this kind of comes back to like a age-old debate that people have and still have to this day about capitalism and socialism and stuff. But I think that the end consumer, while it's unfortunate that right now they're consuming a lot of these shitty cannabinoid products, if we could get the average bear educated on the full spectrum and the matrix that they're interacting with here, you know, the market itself would sort of like regulate and dictate, you know, like if nobody was buying the shitty cannabinoid products and everybody was just buying from guys like you, you know, it'd just be guys like you within the space, you know what I'm saying? But once again, that's another kind of like, it's like a dream, that's a perfect world, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that, man? Is there like a middle ground with that? I mean, like, I'm sure it's something that you guys constantly are considering with your position within things. Because like it could take, if they release some legislature tomorrow, it could heavily benefit you guys. It could also fucking shut you out of business too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So as far as North Carolina is concerned, it does look like Governor Josh Stein, I believe his name is. He is looking to recreationalize it in North Carolina. Like I said, it also definitely looks like we are not going to limit the number of licenses. Now, in regards to your question specifically and dealing with, I'm just going to call them the weed and vape shops, because that's kind of what they are. They're not really dispensaries. But the people in the weed and vape shops who are selling these magic mushrooms with Amanita extract, who are selling like the sprayed hemp, who are selling the vapes full of toxins, all that crap. And this goes back again to what I was talking about with research chemicals. The only reason these people exist and what they're doing is the law comes out and says, all right, HHC, that's illegal. So they're like, all right, let me put my lab coat back on. They go back in the lab and they just add another carbon molecule to HHC. And now it's HHCC, and we can put it right back in the shop. And that's literally, so getting rid of them, that's going to be difficult because that's what they're going to continue to do. But when you recognize it for what it is, if we could just have everyone recognizing what they're doing, what I just plainly explained to you, they're making research chemicals. The second they become illegal, they're just going back and altering them into another brand new research chemical that no one's ever heard of. The cycle continues. No one's ever done research on these research chemicals, like as far as the effects on your body, long-term or short. No one's ever done research into how toxic it is for your body. Like none of that. None of that's covered at all. I'm not super scientist, but I know none of that is covered at all in all of these new research chemicals. And then they're just coming back to their shop and they're marking it up because let me also tell you, research chemicals cost penny on a dollar. They cost nothing to make every single time. And then they're marking it up $15, $20, $30, $40, $50, $100, and you guys are paying for it. And I think if everyone could wake up and recognize and realize that, they would stop supporting it. But that education, again, we're battling the misinformation of when people walk into these shops where they're buying these crappy products, those tellers, those people that work in those shops are telling them, oh, this is the best product in the world. Oh, this is straight from the best mushroom grower in the world's backyard. This weed right here, this came from California's finest farm. They're telling them everything they can just because all it is for them is sell. That's all that matters. We're more like produce stand. Like we're more like a place you come to get your fresh veggies, your fresh produce, and you know that it came from somewhere local. You know that you can trust that it's fresh. You know that you can trust if it's not fresh, the farmer's going to tell you. The farmer's going to let you know, like, hey, this is great, but just so you know, this might be better, or you might like this a little better. Because the farmer, at the end of the day, or what we are, me and Austin ourselves aren't farmers, but Smokey Bear, we represent the farmers. We have a farm in Tennessee, but in my opinion, the farmer is, yeah, he wants his money, but as long as he's eating, all he wants to do is keep on farming. That's his whole life. He's a farmer. You know what I'm saying? He's not trying to build corporations and build monopolistic rituals that surround his company and like all this crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? We're just trying to provide good, fresh product to people. That's all. And make a living doing it. That's it. Not try to make some extravagant living. Just make a living. Be able to live and continue doing what we're doing. That's literally all we care about. It's not about constantly gaining more or constantly gaining traction to seek more and seeking out things we don't have. Like, sure, do we want to like maybe go on a vacation once a year? Sure, you know, but we're not here to, like he said, take over the entire industry or anything like that. And I don't think anybody who represents Smokey Bear in any way is out for that. I think we're a small niche community company. I think in total there's less than 50 people working for us in total. We all know each other. We are all great. Like we all get along. We're all great friends. And we all care about the plant. That's the one common thing that we can all come together on. You know, everyone that works here. And if you don't care about the plant, we don't want you here. Genuinely.
Right.
That is a standard constituent for you to be here. We just want you to care about the plant. That's what this whole thing is about.
I really like you guys. I really, really like you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And hopefully this video does its own small part to play in, you know, helping. And because I agree with you that ultimately if people understood exactly what was going on, I think they would vote with their dollars for people like you guys. You know what I'm saying?
I would hope so. I would hope people don't want to poison themselves.
Yeah. Well, and it's I like you guys. I see what you're doing, but I'm actually in a somewhat similar position myself right now. With our company name is Minnesota Nice Ethnobotanicals, and we're the largest importers and exporters of Amanita muscaria within the United States, the actual mushroom itself. Okay. You know, we work with about 40 plus families across the world sourcing this thing. And if you go on Reddit into like the Amanita muscaria community, it's actually a very legitimate mushroom that's 100% legal to buy, possess, and sell, has its own like crazy spectrum to benefits for people. Yet there's this massive like misinformation campaign around it where people have thought that it's toxic or poisonous for a long time, which is completely not true. And then on top of that, further complicating it is this crazy douchey fake psychedelic industry and mushroom gummies and stuff that has tainted its reputation. You know, they've used Amanita as a marketing tactic. If you guys go onto Reddit and look up Amanita Minnesota Nice or like where do you get Amanita, you will fucking learn we're like the only company in the United States that's like known as the reputable Amanita guys.
Wow.
And so yeah, man, it's really interesting because we're dealing with a very similar thing ourselves of like it's the bad players within our own space who have really kind of tainted the kind of medicine. You know, we consider ourselves stewards of the medicine. We consider ourselves farmers in that aspect as well too. We want to farm. We want to get it to more people. You know what I mean? So after this, William, within our email thread, send me your address and stuff. I want to hook both of you guys up with some like actual Amanita products, not like some fake research chemical.
Hell yeah, dude. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And honestly, and this isn't like some crazy sales pitch or whatever, but like legitimately, I think based on like who you guys are and what you're doing, this would add a really insane extra layer of trust factor and a UVP for your guys' store if you started stocking this in there and educating people on, hey, you see all these bullshit Amanita mushroom products? These are like some of the only real legitimate legal ones.
Yeah, we would love that. Yeah, We're all about that. Again, if it's real and it's legal, like if we're able to sell it and it is the real deal, that's what we want to. That's what we want to be in our store.
I'm going to send you guys 2 videos of mine that are it might take you 30 minutes to an hour to watch these 2 videos, but if you can watch those 2 videos, it'll give you the full download on everything, man. It's going to blow your fucking mind. And then also I'm going to send you all these products, and then look at our website, dude. Go look at our website, look at the About Us or whatever, but you're going to get what I'm saying and see the kind of mission that we're on and see how in alignment we are with each other and stuff. And yeah, dude, your customers and your community would really, really benefit from it. And regardless, I just want you guys to try it so you can kind of see, like, okay, Amanita, it's like it's not a perfect analogy for it, but a lot of people refer to Amanita as like a spiritual Xanax. It's like nature's wine. It's this very harmonious, natural, organic feeling, kind of like jolly, like drunkenness. It's really, really interesting. Yeah.
Is there
really
is there psychedelic or?
So at really, really high doses, it can become very psychoactive in terms of it can be confusing, it can be insightful, it can be visionary for some people. But honestly, experientially, at the really high dose level, it's more similar to something like ketamine than it is like serotonergic psychedelics like psilocybin mushrooms. It's more kind of has this like dissociated, jolly, and then a very reliable part of Amanita is that especially if you take enough, it usually makes you very sleepy and it puts you into this really deep slumber and you have these insanely vivid dreams. It's so yeah. I'll stop doing my sales pitch here, but I really want to get you guys on the Amanita stuff. I think you'd really like it. But to get back to THCA, well, I still got you guys for another few minutes. One thing I'm curious about within that is like, and I'm sure you guys can only kind of speak to your own kind of community at this point, but like maybe the other communities that you've been a part of as well too, and these other locations which you guys have stores. But how is this playing out at the local level in terms of like laws and law enforcement? Are people getting arrested for these things? Are they getting any sort of like? Are people getting a lot of possession charges, or a lot of the possession charges being dropped? Have any stores ran into like getting drug trafficking charges themselves? Like what has that been like with law enforcement?
So it definitely varies because I'm from South Carolina near Greer, for our second store, and he's from Asheville, and I've seen the difference. So in Greer, when we first opened, we did have a couple police officers. They would sit around the block. They try to pull you over. They know you're going to smoke it. But since we started sealing them and giving you a receipt, we noticed as long as you don't open it and as long as you're not smoking it at the time, like we haven't ran into any problems since then. But up here, we haven't had a single problem. We've had officers come in here, help us with a couple of things. We've never ran into any problem as long as you leave it sealed with a receipt. We make sure to tell each customer that we haven't had anyone call or come back and say anything.
Yeah, and I will say up here, living here, I have not seen the police harass anyone for marijuana. We have a very terrible homeless and meth/crack ridden we have a very terrible problem up here in Asheville. We have a lot of homeless people because a lot of people were displaced by this hurricane that we just recently had in September. And not just that, we already had a very large homeless population. Now, some of them choose to be homeless, and that's fine. Some of them just enjoy the nature and the views that Asheville has to offer, and this is where they chose to lay down their house at. But some of them are not by choice. Some of them get hooked. We have very bad drug problems here in Asheville. A lot of crack, a lot of heroin, a lot of meth. One of our first weeks open here in Asheville, what was she here for? We had a sign stolen, and we had to call a police officer just to report it for the fiscal part of it, just for the financial part. That like we had a $50 sign get stolen. So she came down here. She didn't bother us at all. She didn't care what we were doing at all. But she did mention how, literally day by day, there's so much meth currently in the county. This was just a month or two ago. There's so much meth in the county, and there are so many calls being made each night about things happening, mostly to do with the homeless and drugs, that the police literally cannot keep up with it. She said they are running behind constantly.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because it feels like almost nationwide this exists for both cannabis and psychedelics as well too, because that's another space I'm involved heavily with. And
just noticed there's this really interesting, even gray market, not just with research chemical psychedelics, but there's like a lot of psychedelic churches. There's a lot of people just openly selling psilocybin at events and even on ClearNet stores now and stuff like that. And so it's very evident that, kind of like you said, law enforcement, it just almost out of necessity in this day and age, has to have their attention pointed elsewhere, and rightfully so. Like with our with all the issues that you just alluded to within your own community, and like within my community, opiates and meth is a really big issue as well too. I'm like, I'll be damned. Like, you guys better not be going after the fucking stoners. Like,
if you do it last, please. Give us time to even be aware of what's going on.
Yeah. So whenever I was going through your guys's website, I noticed like you sold like some coffee, you sold some merch and stuff on there. I was just kind of curious, why don't you guys do any e-com with any of your cannabis products?
So we are working on that. The story behind that is that to be completely honest, Smokey Bear has been running on the gas of three people's engines for about 8 or 9 years. And so when me and Austin just joined on board, they had just been running everything themselves, doing everything themselves, sourcing everything themselves, trying to do everything themselves. And that's great. That's the way it should be. But eventually, you just kind of get into a routine, because I've owned two businesses before, and it's very easy to, instead of continuing to try new things, you can kind of get into a routine of what you've been doing because it's worked. And, eventually, if you just stick in that routine, it could work. People could stop being interested in your routine, and you're still doing your routine, trying to figure out what you did wrong. So when me and Austin came on board, we shaken things up a bit. So, there were no grows in the stores. Well, Austin's a master cannabis cultivator. So now we have CBD grows in the store. As far as the website, it's a great website. But it looks like it was maybe made 10 years ago. It could definitely use some major updating, including having an e-commerce store where we ship out the packs and we sell the packs from. And my buddy Nick, who lives down the mountain from us, is actually at Sketched Media. Shout out Sketched Media. Is actually in the middle of producing all the graphics for the website. He's putting it all together. He's putting the e-commerce part together, and that will be available soon. We're just a little behind in that regard, but we're working on it.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see that because I want to order some, dude. If you,
we can still. I'm about to say we can still ship out. If anyone calls like one of the numbers, we can still work out an order and we can still get it to you. We just don't have it on the website yet. But if you call the store or one of the owners, we can definitely get that worked out with you.
Dope. Cool. Yeah. So I'll put that information down in the description stuff as well of this video so that people know that. But hopefully, maybe by that. Yeah, and maybe by that time the website will be done and up. If it is, I'll link that. But if not, we can go back after the fact and re-add that into the kind of.
Yeah, it's looking like it's about a month or two out. He's been working on it since I believe April, May, and it's probably about a month or two out.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
I'm happy with it. It looks really cool. It's definitely a major upgrade. And we didn't have social media presence really before. Now me and Austin are posting. Like I said before, I've ran businesses, and that's what I've done is graphics is how I produce products throughout my life. So I'm just a really good graphic artist and Adobe products. And Austin he's a lot younger than me, and he's from the newer generation that I understand TikTok and what it's for. But if you put me on it and expect me to post content, I'm just kind of man, I don't really know. But this guy, he's got it. So we're getting on the social media channels, everything. We're trying to really let people know that we're here. It's you've got the companies that are selling this vape product, and they're crushing social media, probably because they're paying somebody 25, 30,000 every 3 months to just be on it. You know what I'm saying? Just be pumping it out. So we're trying to do that same thing and be on par with them in terms of, hey, we're going to have to try really hard because our product sucks, except our product doesn't suck. So
Yeah.
we're going to be, hey, we got to push really hard to let people know that, hey, stop doing that. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Please check this out. If you would just come in here and check it out, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm genuinely curious, man. I would love to see kind of like what you guys, some of the ideas and stuff that you're cooking up. That's within our company. That's my position. I'm the chief marketing officer, and so like anything digital marketing, anything like that, man. If you ever have any if you ever want to bounce an idea off me or have any questions or anything like that, I genuinely eat it up. And like my thing is, like, I want to be involved with projects that I fucking care about and I like the direction of, and I like the direction you guys are on. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, if there's any like the digital marketing stuff, and I know that like, say you just brought up like paid ads, the paid ad world for cannabis industry, psychoactive industry is extremely complicated. There's a lot of restrictions, a lot of regulations.
Yeah, that's what I'm running into issues with, is that specifically. So maybe we should definitely talk about that.
Absolutely, 100%, brother. And I'm not, once again, not a sales pitch. I'm not looking to extract a bunch of shit out of you guys. I'd be genuinely interested in talking to you guys.
No, I
about
appreciate
that.
it. We appreciate it for real.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. But okay, dope. I know it's 11:20. You guys got to go soon. Is there anything else that you'd like to kind of leave people with today, or say anything? Final comments.
I was just gonna say, I think to bring up one more point, I noticed that, like you said, the lobbyists, they're putting lots of money into this, like, I don't know, legalization or I guess criminalization of it. And I feel like what it really is the top alcohol industries, like, they noticed alcohol is on the way out. Everyone, like, we're a cannabis bar and we noticed, like, no one likes to go get drunk and have the smell and get pulled over. Like, no one wants to deal with all that. So we noticed that there's a rise, especially in the cannabis bar. Like, everyone that comes here really likes the idea, but anyone who really drinks a lot hates the idea. So we have noticed that these like alcohol companies are trying to get it highly regulated to where you can only buy a 3 milligram THC drink that only they offer. So that's very hard, especially when we make our own cannabis drinks and we're a cannabis bar. It's very hard when they want to limit the milligrams and especially limit the sources and the farms you can get it from. That's going to be very hard. Especially like, you can only drink these drinks made by Budweiser for 3 milligrams a piece. Like, it's going to really.
We have people who found us and found our bear juice, which is a product that Smokey Bear, we make it in-house. This man right here brews it. A quart is 170 milligrams of THC. I understand that's a lot. I get it. But we have people, we've only been open for 3 months, and we have people who come in here already who have fibromyalgia, who have rare painful cancers, who come in here and they were like, man, that bottle only lasted me 4 or 5 days. A bottle's supposed to last you a week or two. They'd be like, man, that bottle only lasted me 4 or 5 days, but it's the only thing I've ever found that was strong enough to I could just sip on it and keep taking my pain away. And it's like these regulations that they've already passed it. They've already passed it. And July 1st, 2026, you have to comply. Any THC beverage in North Carolina cannot contain more than 10 milligrams of THC. Okay, so let's just rewind. Our 170 milligrams cost $40. These 10 milligram THC drinks, those cost about $8 to $10 a piece. So you're going to get 40 milligrams for $40 versus 170 milligrams meant for 2 weeks, or for someone who really needs it medicinally to use. You're going to take those completely off the market. You're going to make them pay more if they want to reach that strength. And you're going to make way more waste. Like, we have a glass jar. That's all you're getting out of 170 milligrams versus if you were to get 170 milligrams of any other drink, you're getting 17 cans or 17 bottles.
Thank you for bringing this up.
What was that?
Thank you for bringing this up. It's a great example of this because it's alluding to what we were talking about earlier. This is an example of legislature, of regulation, in which there's this fucking smoke screen, which most people can see through. The smoke screen of, we're doing this for your benefit, for your health, or whatever it is, right? But yeah, exactly. But ultimately, how it's going to play out, and we already know this. Like, and I completely agree with you. Is like what you just said. It's going to hurt you guys. It's going to hurt the smaller mom and pop shops, more artisanal people, and then it's also going to hurt the end consumer who has to pay fucking more to end up getting their medicine. And they're like we said earlier, there is people who fall into issues with consuming too much of these cannabinoids, but I in no way ever feel like it's the government's job to regulate that for people. You know what I mean? Like it's, and also if in the process of this particular, say, woman, whoever it was, who was healing her and mitigating her fibromyalgia via cannabinoids, I'll take that being available to her, and then the guy who like can't stop smoking continuing to like not stop smoking. Because the thing is if we take that away from her, right, and also take it away from him, he's still going to fucking figure out how to get his fix, how to get his high. You know what I'm saying?
She will too, but she's not going to have the same standard available. So you're just going to hurt her. You're not going to hurt him. Mm-hmm. You're only going to hurt the one who's using it medicinally. It blows my mind to think about it in that way. And it's just like, man, we're so dumb as a species. We're so dumb. Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, sometimes in some ways, you know, and it's something I try and keep in mind with this, like, because I deal with the marketing with our business and other businesses, is like, I feel that way sometimes too when I'm like psychologically unpacking the end consumer and building the funnel down to them, you know what I mean? But I also like keep in mind, okay, I'm somebody who, like, if you were to ask me about this particular cannabinoid or psychedelic, like I could give you the full download and really point you in the right direction. But if you were to ask me like how to change a gasket on my car, like I am not the fucking dude. I am like elementary level edge, like, you know what I mean? And so like with human beings in general, there's a spectrum to this where if you talk to almost anybody long enough, they have something that like they're an expert at, but then like a lot of other things that they're not experts at. And so I try and like remind myself, like, this person who has no idea what I'm talking about with cannabinoids or psychedelics, like they're an expert at turtles or something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right though. You're right. 100%.
Yeah.
You kind of I could see them completely getting a tunnel vision when they're creating their laws. I'm just like, we're only worrying about this, and then they make the law, and they're like, all right, that's taken care of, and they don't think about anything else. And it's like,
yeah, brother. But awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys. It's been a super fun conversation. Like I said, I'll leave everyone. I'll leave their links and everything like that in the description below. I highly recommend their cannabis. So yeah, if you guys have,
we appreciate you, Gabe.
Thank you very much.
Much love, guys.